Dom, what's the matter? I have a bone to pick. I hope not with me, not with you, Sam. I have a bone to pick with Linux. With Linux? The operating system kernel? No. Not with the kernel. With Linux, as in the distros. You see, Windows is currently stumbling. Telemetry scandals, forced updates, I don't know, the fact that the operating system spies on you while you work and then they serve you an ad as thank you note for data theft. People are really ready to leave. They are looking for alternatives. And Linux should be all over this right now. And are they not? Sort of, but not really. See, Linux is somewhat standing in its own way. How are they standing in their own way, Dom? Let me put it this way, Sam. This is Linux. Linux desktop. All of it. Every distro, every desktop environment, every philosophy about how humans should interact with computers. All represented by this drive. And it's quite the mess. Just listen to those guys. Standardization? That's against the open source philosophy and the freedom that stems from it. The user should choose. GTK, Qt, what's the difference? Just configure it yourself. We are really trying here. We bundled things, we made it easy, but well, we also introduced Snap and usually keep our packages, I don't know, out of date? But seriously, we tried. Minimalism. Beauty. Activities button? No longer needed. Settings? What about them? It's intuitive. That sounds a bit confusing, Dom. And by the way, what did that guy mean with configure it yourself? Don't worry about that guy. He's just using Arch, by the way. But Sam, look at these three. KDE, GNOME, Cinnamon. Each one beautiful. Each one completely different. Button positions move depending on which desktop you are using. Settings hide in different menus, and seemingly no one can agree upon where pop-up windows should spawn. But Dom, wouldn't that create a terrible experience for the average user? It surely can. Quite similar to the car industry. The car industry? What are you talking about? The car market, or the automobile industry, was a mess before they standardized the controls. The pedal layout in pre-World War II cars was chaos. Brake pedal on the left, brake pedal on the right, or maybe a pull lever? That sounds like you're gonna crash if you ever switch models. Yes, very high probability. But they could just do what the Romans did. They, you mean Linux? And why the Romans? Well, see, the Romans built one of history's largest empires with two things, an army and standardization. Roads, aqueducts, currency, legal systems, measurements. You could travel from Britannia to Egypt and roughly know how things worked. Linux has the army, passionate developers, global community, brilliant minds. But we can't agree on app layout. Dom, before I forget, what was the deal with pop-up windows? Do you mean annoying advertising windows? Yes, those can be annoying at times, but they are never advertisement. That's a Windows feature, entirely missing in Linux. No, I meant additional dialog windows, if you will. You know, to apply a recent changed setting. Look at this gem, produced by Fedora Media Writer. Isn't there a dedicated space for those kind of things? There could be. KDE, for example, shows system notifications usually in the bottom right corner, above the taskbar. But you know, within the confines of the currently used monitor would be a good place as well. I don't know, somewhere near the center. Those kind of things can surely be solved, can't they? You're right, Sam. They can be solved and should be. But while Linux solves these issues, fights over tool sets, and fragments itself into oblivion, Google is building an Android ecosystem for mobile devices, laptops, and potentially desktops, which is roughly based on a Linux kernel. Ah, Dom, no problem. People can just switch to Apple. One could certainly think that, especially if you listen to a lot of tech YouTubers. They seriously consider Apple a competition. To make this clear for you, Sam, Apple is mostly a North American bubble. In the grand scheme of things, they don't really matter. The world runs on Android devices and Windows PCs. China, India, Southeast Asia, South America, Europe, Africa. Billions of people that never touched an Apple product. And probably never will. True, I didn't think about that. Google already has a very deep market penetration. Yup. Linux' only chance at this point is to conquer the still remaining Windows portion. Unfortunately, I think Android will get there first. Don't you think that is a little bit grim? I do. But I also think there are ways to turn this situation into an advantage. Let's for a moment forget the outdated repository approach. It's not really such a radical idea to standardize the basics. You know, window controls in consistent locations. For instance, the close button, always in the right upper corner. All the settings in one place. Not scattered across menus, not buried, nor hidden. A standard toolkit, or at least a translation layer, so that KDE apps look native in GNOME and vice versa. But wouldn't that eliminate some of the freedom that comes with the open source approach? Whoa, by all means, keep the freedom. Keep the choice. For all I care, just add a button in settings and call it fuck the standard. Turn it on and you're able to customize everything. But please, make the default consistent. That would probably make it easier to develop apps as well. Yeah, and maybe encourage big software companies to port their product for Linux. You know, it's somewhat known that engineering software isn't exactly on top of Apple's priority list, I would say. That might explain why virtually all iPhones look alike. I'm pretty sure they still use the same CAT file like 10 years ago. That was a somewhat well-drafted joke. Linux has already strong support for electronic design and analysis software. How about we bring the mechanical crowd to the party as well? So engineering companies can completely switch to Linux and don't have to run two different operating systems. Or, like they very often do, just stick to Windows. You know, convenience. So you're saying Linux is basically at the crossroads. Very much so. We can keep arguing about toolkits, keep fragmenting, keep building beautiful, incompatible desktops. Or we can standardize the basics, make it easy for regular people and actually compete. Because Google isn't arguing. They are building. And they don't care. So the Roman Empire standardized. The car industry standardized. And the masses don't need Arch, by the way. They need a Corolla, a Civic, a Beetle. Something that just works. The same way every time. No worries, Arch can stay Arch. The kit car with poorly written instructions for people who enjoy the challenge. but seriously, Ubuntu, Fedora, the big distros, they need to agree on the basics. Or Android wins without even showing up for the battle. That way, the distros most people incorrectly call Linux become a footnote. A beautiful, fragmented footnote. Or, nicht den Teufel an die Wand zu malen, Linux could become a stable kernel for Microsoft's newest abomination. Let's build the future we want. Don't just accept the one handed to us.